And we're live. What's up, guys? And welcome to episode 1 of the Shit Talk podcast. And I'm Connor, and the first episode of this podcast is actually just going to be like a little introduction, get to know me a little bit, get to know what this podcast is going to be about, and whether it's going to fit you, suit you, and whether you're going to come back week to week, which hopefully you do. Now, before we get into anything about me, and what this podcast is about, I just want to talk about why I'm making it, because originally I've already started a podcast before, and it was called CM Radio. I think there's a few episodes floating about on SoundCloud and my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Connor Mooney Fitness. Cheap plug. And that was a podcast I did in 2018 up until 2019, early 2019. And predominantly, it was a fitness podcast, a health and fitness podcast. So every week I would talk about a fitness-related topic, whether it was weight loss, dieting, fad diets, training. Like, it just covered a lot of training and nutrition. And it would also talk a little bit about mindset and mentality. That's one thing that I briefly touched on throughout these podcasts. Now, because I wanted it to predominantly be a fitness podcast, I didn't really touch onto any topics that resonated with me. Although I am a qualified PT and I have PT'd in the past and helped clients lose weight, and I love talking about health and fitness. It is my biggest passion. I went to college for 2 years to do it, and then I've done all this extensive research outside of it just to increase my knowledge. It's not the only thing that interests me. So making a fitness podcast limited me to only talking about fitness. I mean, we barely ever spoke about mindset and mentality, toxic relationships, your environment, how fucking sleep and light affects your attitude and your training, and how that could have a knock-on effect to weight gain and how you perceive the day and all stuff like that. And when I did talk about them, it really excited me to do so. And I just feel like the whole fitness podcast limited me to talk about only fitness, and it was just a week to week of me trying to find a new topic to talk about and a new way to tell people to lose weight, and just trying to rehash the same stuff. Essentially, you could think of it as I either wasn't creative enough to talk about fitness related topics, because let's just face it, there are a bunch of fitness podcasts that are solely fitness podcasts that talk only about health and fitness that are very successful, and that the hosts and the people presenting it can deliver a week-to-week podcast that is enjoyable. But I'm just not one of them. I realised soon that the creative juices didn't flow with me that well. Maybe down the line in the future, I can just bring back that solely fitness related podcast. But for the foreseeable future, I want to talk about a lot more things. So I have big passions other than fitness. I fucking love music. I love friends. I love drinking. All of this stuff. And I have a big interest in things that are going on in society today that I want to talk about, that I've never had a chance to talk about other than at the pub with my friends. And even then, you're drinking, or even if it's at home, the conversations don't really go deep and in depth. And I just feel like from this podcast, which is the Shit Talk podcast, it is literally just going to be shooting the shit with my mates or on my own like I'm doing today. So I've already got like 3 episodes lined up that I want to do, and I'm not going to be so rigid this time with this podcast, because in my last one I would barely ever have guests on, because I thought it would somehow muck up the whole image of the podcast, not because they were a bad fit or they weren't giving good content, but because it was my podcast and I wanted it to predominantly be me. Whereas this, if I do 6 or 7 episodes in a row that have friends on, or the same friend on, then it has the same friend on, I have friends on. I'm predominantly the host. Down the line, if it gets into the situation where I can bring a friend on as a co-host every episode, then yeah, we'll do it. But it's literally just an ebb and flow. We're going to see how it goes week to week with this podcast. Now, the episodes that I've got lined up, I'm really excited to do. I can tell you now, the one I'm recording this on Thursday at 10 to 12 in the morning. It's 11:50 a.m. and I've got to leave for tennis in about an hour and 20 minutes. But I'm doing an episode tomorrow with two of my friends, Max and Chris, which if you are subscribed to my YouTube channel and have watched my episode 1 of the post-lockdown diet series that I've just started, they're the two guys in there that I train with. Now, we're doing an episode tomorrow where we're going to talk about the 3 Rush Hour movies, the Cornetto trilogy. So it's predominantly films, and then we're just going to spend the next half playing drinking games and getting absolutely fucked and talking about random shit. And for me, I'm a bit nervous because I don't know how I'm going to make playing drinking games with two of my friends enjoyable for audio listeners, because this isn't going to be a visual thing for a while. And it's just I'm a little bit nervous of how I'm going to convey the fun and excitement we're having in that podcast, but I believe it's going to be good, and I'm going to make it good, and it's just going to be a good time. We're just going to get... You're going to listen to us getting absolutely trashed. We're going to play, like, drinking Uno. One thing we've been doing... So, we've been hanging around mine as of late because of whole COVID lockdown, not being able to go out much. We've just been limiting us to indoors at the moment, just so we can reduce our spread, or the potential spread that we may give to other people. Pardon me. So we've just been watching a lot of movies as of late, which is one day we marathoned all 3 of the Rush Hour movies, which if you haven't watched them, they are incredible. I'll talk more about this in the podcast that is going to come out in episode 2. But we've also just been watching fucking iCarly on on Netflix, and playing a drinking game version of that. And let me just tell you this: the series itself is shit, but I challenge you to play the iCarly drinking game, because there's like 50 rules, and you have to drink every 2 seconds. By episode 2, we were on like 4 beers already. It was just nuts. So that's coming out. That's being recorded tomorrow, and will come out exactly a week after whenever this fucking podcast comes out. I don't actually know when this is going to come out. I'm just recording it. Now that's the podcast sort of done. That's the topics you're going to get. We're going to talk about everything and anything. It's not... Some days I am going to talk about fitness by myself or with some friends. Some days I'm going to talk about conspiracy theories. Some days I'm just going to get fucking drunk on the podcast with mates. Sometimes we're going to do fucking film reviews or series reviews. I know season 2 of The Boys comes out September 4th or September 8th this year, which is really close. It's August 16th at the moment. It's July 16th at the moment. It's not August. So I'm going to do a review of that in a podcast with whoever else watches it. But it's just going to be a whole bunch of topics that you guys will find enjoyable. Anyway, enough about the podcast. Let's talk about me for a sec and get to know me. So, I'm Connor. I'm 24 years old. 25 this year. It makes me feel fucking old that as soon as I hit 25 this year, it will be nearly a year. Next year, June 2021... Yeah, because we're in 2020 at the moment. June 2021, I would have left school for 10 years, and it makes me feel incredibly old. And the fact that I'm a quarter of a century old this year, in a couple of months, just makes me feel even worse. But you know what? You're only as old as you feel, and I'm 25 years young, so, you know, that's how it is. But like I said, I'm a PT, a qualified PT. I don't currently work in the fitness industry at the moment. I did up until late 2019, and then I got fired from the gym that I worked at. And this is something that I'll go into later with my mate Dave, because I know he has fucking strong opinions about this situation, and it's just going to be really funny to hear him say it. But I got fired for some bullshit reasons from this gym. I'm not going to say which gym it is or which company that I worked for, but I was fired for what I deem shit reasons. It's absolute bullshit. I just reckon they wanted me gone, and that was late 2019. I want to say October 2019, because my birthday's in November, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't working my birthday at this place, so yeah, we'll say October. And then ever since then, I've been working just in retail, and ideally I was hoping to get back into the PT or the fitness industry this year. So as soon as it hit 2020, I think January, February time, I said to my manager at my current place, who is also a good friend of mine that I've been training with for the last 4 years, that I was going to really dive deep into fitness this year. I was going to like the job that I worked at was with obviously my good friends who there was a lot of leniency in the job because we weren't exactly always busy 100%. It gave me the opportunity to expand my knowledge on fitness and within fitness, and because the manager being my friend, it was easier to get days off, and it was easier for him to understand that maybe I did want to get into fitness, so there is going to be a lot of focus on that rather than maybe my job that I'm currently doing. And that was fun. That was really exciting because it put me in a good stead for the rest of the year. I was going to really focus on getting into PT and work a PT job or a job in a gym alongside my current employment. And ideally, the way that I wanted to work it is, if you don't know, most gyms offer two ways of PTing at the gym itself. One, you can do 10 hours work a week and you won't be paid for this, but what it will allow you to do is, one, have a free gym membership, and two, allow you to PT on the gym floor, and every bit of money you make will go to you. So 100% of what you make goes to you. But you would have to do 40 hours free work a month in total. So when I did that, I've done that before when I worked at 24/7 Fitness. So I worked in GNC alongside working at this gym. And it was a part-time job as a assistant manager at GNC, and then I'd do 10 hours in 2 5-hour blocks. So I would do 10 hours a week at this 24/7 gym in 2 5-hour shifts, and I would PT alongside that. Everything that I made would come to me. That's one option. That's ideally the better one, because the option two is what I would say you'd slip into the more clientele and the more money you're making, because you would pay a gym rent. So every gym's a little bit different. The gym that I worked at would charge you £400, so £100 a week for you to PT there. Now, to some people that may be like, oh, fuck me, why would you do that? You're paying money, just do the 10 hours work. But when you're making like 30, 40 quid an hour, the 40 hours that you spend working for free that you can't PT in, you could be making thousands of pounds. Subtract the 400 that you'll pay for gym rent, and you're still making a lot more money than what you were before if you're just doing 10 hours. So the way that I was going to structure it is do 10 hours free work along with PTing alongside my full-time job. Now, it would have been a lot of work, and I feel like my social media presence would have taken a hit with that, like with the amount of YouTube videos that I would have uploaded, the amount of podcasts that I would have done. Instagram would have been relatively okay because I still could have posted on that every single day, but it would have been doable but very stressful, and I was okay with that because work was very lenient with me, very understanding. So if it came to like any issues, it wouldn't be the case that I'd get stressed out having to try and explain them, because I know they would be understood. And then after doing that for a few months, when I built up a good clientele, I would either leave my job and then just get a part-time job at a different company, so I can then do more clients and build more clients while still working 10 hours a week. So I still have a stable income, but I'm also earning all this PT money that is only going to me. And then eventually I'd work 10 hours and pie the job off, so I'm solely working on PTing. Then once I've done that, I would go into the whole pay a gym rent, and then everything else comes to me. And that was the idea of it. Because when I worked at this gym that I did before, not 24/7, but the one that I got fired from, I loved it. I went from doing a full-time fitness instructor, so working in the gym. I was doing like 38 hours a week along with my PT, which, let me just tell you, got very fucking busy, because from Monday to like Saturday, I was in the gym from 4 a.m. all the way until 10, 11 o'clock that night. Now, 4 a.m. is when I started training, so I'd wake up at 4, I'd get into the gym for 5 till 7, then I'd go to work, do my shift, and then PT from when I finished from about 2:30 all the way up until like 10, 11 o'clock. And that's not constant clients. Jeez, I wish I was that busy. But it was like do 1 or 2 clients, have a 2-hour break, have another client, have an hour break. And it just wasn't worth driving home and driving back. So I'd just stay in the gym, mingle around, chat, help out if I needed to. And yeah, and I really fucking enjoyed it. And after a while, I was getting so many clients that I did take my hours down from 38 to 20, and this was probably the best I ever felt in terms of me being a PT, because I would do 1 week I would work Monday to Friday, 4-hour shifts from 6 till 10, and I would do that Monday to Friday. That would be 1 week, and then I'd have the weekend off to myself. Then the next week I would have every day off, but I'd work I think it was 2 10-hour shifts on the weekends, or it was 2 10-hour shifts on the weekends, but I'd have all the week off. And this worked for me. It was amazing. Every other week I would get the whole weekend off because I just wouldn't book clients in, and then I would work from sort of the afternoons during the week all the way up until I worked. So I got a lot more spare time to myself, which allowed me to see friends, see family, be myself a bit more without the stress of work, but also allow me to get more clients, which is what I was doing. Then I got sacked, right? And I really enjoyed that, and that's what I was hoping to bring back in 2020. Then March hit, and this whole fucking corona, COVID-19, was an issue. And, like, I can't moan. It's a first world problem that this coronavirus and lockdown has caused a rift in my plans, right? So for transparency reasons, it's the 16th of July now. My last day of work at my current employment is tomorrow, so Friday, but I'm not working because I'm still on furlough. Lockdown has caused my company to close so many stores in our area, my store being one of them, so I'm being made redundant. So I'm struggling to look for a new job because I live away from my parents. I'm in a house share with 4 other friends, and I've just signed, about 2 months ago, I signed a 12-month, I don't even reckon it was 2 months ago, I think it was February before COVID hit, I signed a 12-month extension on the lease for this place, and now I'm being told that I don't have a job, and in the economy at the moment, so many people are being made redundant, so many people are looking for work. But because not many places are open, and most of their staff in the places that are open are on furlough, and they're trying to bring them back, there's not a lot of jobs going. So you can imagine there's not a lot of jobs going, and there's a lot of people looking for these jobs. The likelihood of me getting one is going to be very slim. So that's stressful. But that's put a dampener on my plans for the year, because now I don't know when I'm going to be able to apply or get back into the fitness industry. With the whole social distancing rules, I'm not entirely sure people are going to want a PT at this moment in time. Now, there are going to be PTs, like my sister has a PT at the moment, she still sees him. One of my friends that I went to college with to study PT, Francisco, is killing it with his PT at the moment. Outside, he's doing home workouts, he's doing virtual workouts or sessions, and sessions outside. But they're well established. I think if anyone's going into the fitness industry during this time until COVID-19 has passed, you're going to be in for a tough ride, because there's going to be a lot of stigma around training people. It's going to cause you to change up your sessions, and for an experienced PT, that's relatively easy to do, but for someone who doesn't know what they're doing in the PT world or in the gym, it can be very stressful. And I would struggle with it as well. I've only done like a year and a half's worth of PT. I'd say I'm experienced, and I would know how to set up a session that doesn't involve fucking the gym, not literally fucking the gym, but being in the gym or being as in contact the most. But it will be a struggle, because you think about it, if you take a new client on who's never exercised before, or they have been in the gym before but they've only ever done cardio, if you try and teach them weight-based exercises, you've got form to correct, and that's a major thing. And for me, I like being hands-on, not in a creepy way, like fucking groping or touching everyone that I possibly can while PTing, but, telling people how to do the exercise, like pointing to the muscle groups that need to be worked, and when they're doing it, say if they're doing a tricep pushdown, I'll like walk over, and this is after like the fucking boundaries have been set, and I'll just point and say to them, like, this is the muscle that you're trying to work, and I'll just lightly tap their tricep, right? Or I'll touch like the traps on the back, maybe just to give them a physical feel of where to actually activate, and that does help. But that's something you're not going to be able to do whatsoever. And it's easier for me to put someone into the position for a lat pull down than it is for me to show them and explain them. I will demonstrate it, then you'll do it. And for example, this is one thing that I always did. We'll take lat pull down for example. I would demonstrate it, do it, explain it to them, they'd get down, I'd see them doing a few reps, and then I'd be like, right, weight up, and then I'd move their hands if I need to. I'd tell them, bring your shoulders back while like touching the shoulders and telling them to bring them back. Then I'd like say, right, your lats are here, this is where you're going to be working. And I'd just like, I won't literally put my fucking hand on there, just be like, one finger, just point to them, tap it, and that go. They know where to hit, they know what's going on. That's something you're not going to be able to do. So explaining workouts and teaching people how to do weight-based exercises correctly is going to be an issue. And that's a real big no-no. Well, that's going to be an issue itself, because when it comes to weight-based exercises, the risk for injury is going to be higher, especially when you're new, and especially if you don't know what weight you're going to do. If someone goes too heavy and they don't know what they're doing, they're going to fuck their shit up. And it's your job as a PT to know how to prevent that, right? And how to make them do the exercise safely. Now, if I can't teach the way that I'd usually teach, it's going to be a lot harder for me to do so, therefore increasing the risk that they are going to injure themselves. And it's not the case of if you're a good PT, you should know. It's if you can't show that, you can show them, yeah. Some people don't learn by being shown. Some people need to have some physical contact to know what muscle groups to work and where a tricep is and blah, blah, blah. You can show them on you, but there's a big difference between them doing a tricep pull down or push down and then you like tapping them on the tricep, telling them this is where you need to work, and them actually being able to activate that muscle group. For me, for example, whenever I work my quads on a leg extension, and it's only on a leg extension, I will rarely ever get any activation unless I put my hands on my quads. I don't know why, really don't know why, but unless my hands are on my quads during a leg extension, I don't really get any activations. Now, that's gotten better over the past few months because I was going a bit too heavy, so I lowered the weight. But for me, that's just ingrained now. Touch the quad, and I know how to get an activation. It's the same thing on a leg press with me as well. But yeah, that's going to be a real big issue for me. And this whole coronavirus has screwed me over in terms of employment financially, but just in terms of my plans, because now it's been pushed back. Now 2021, but even that, I don't know when this whole thing is going to end. So when do I get back into the fitness industry? When do things go back to normal? But yeah, that was the plan for this year, but that's not happening. And coronavirus is something that I want to touch on in a later podcast with friends and other guests, just to kind of see how their view on it. Because I don't just want to give mine. I've just given that. It's shit, but it's where we are at the moment. And I think that can be a podcast in itself. But other than fitness and other than wanting to be a PT, I am really into music. Now, me and my two friends, Max and Chris, who are going to be on the podcast in the next episode, we were in a band in college called Undertides. And you can find a few things on YouTube if you just type in Undertides. We'll have like a song and a few podcasts that we did when we were in the band. That was in like 2014. And we didn't release because it never got edited, mixed. We recorded a 4-track or 5-track EP. And pardon me, I'm not going to lie, recording this EP was probably one of the best times that I've ever fucking had. We spent our Easter holiday of 2014, so 2 weeks, in the college studio on our own, just recording what we wanted, and this was part of our course as well. So part of our course as level 2s was to record and release a 4-track EP, which is what I think we did 4, but I'm pretty sure we bumped it to 5. And then our friend Connor, who was in level 3, was doing level 3 music. One of his courses was to produce an EP, so we worked together. And we didn't know Connor before starting this EP. Me and our mate Tobin, who was also in the band, we met him at a house party. Well, no, we went to a house party that he was at, like 2 or 3 years prior to that, but we just never spoke to him. But we became really close with him as well, and he's still a good friend now. I think he's actually coming around tomorrow after we finish the podcast just to get pissed with us, which is good. But yeah, so we were in a band called Undertides. We recorded an EP, never got released just because situations happened. And we started a group chat, a band group chat that started in 2014, and it's still going today. So the same members in it, minus one, every now and then. So Tobin's not in it now. I wasn't in it at one point. Max wasn't in it for about 3 years, which is something we'll talk about in the next episode as well. But yeah, so that's been going for 6 years now, going on 7. Hoorah for that. But yeah, so we were in a band. We did one gig for Connor's coursework. He had to produce what was it? He had to run a gig. So he had to organise a gig, essentially, and we did that, and it was amazing. But we soon broke up that band just because it was, like, we fell out of touch with Max, so Chris could have been our singer, but then we really weren't motivated. We didn't really have a drum kit to record drums with, and we just didn't want to be in a band. We were still friends, but we just didn't want to do music. Chris still did music on his own. I had hopes to, but I just never got round to doing it. But then earlier this year, 2020, we've got back in contact with Max, and we're really close with him again now. And we're sitting there one day, and I don't know whose idea was it, but we were like, yeah, should we just start recording music again? Like, me, Max, and Chris just start doing something. I mean, we can't go outside, we can't do fitness, anything like that. Like, I can't. Music is something we all have in common. We all love it. So we're like, yeah, man, let's start a band again. So the idea that we have now is we're going to be releasing a 5-track EP, 5-track concept EP, all about, I'm pretty sure it's about loss and the idea of growing apart and then coming back together, either as friends or within a relationship. And we got this inspiration from the 3-year separation that me and Chris have had with Max. So in about 2017, we stopped talking to him, just for reasons. There was no animosity between any of us. It's just people grow, and they grow apart. And maybe you're not the same as you were the day before, and that's a good thing, okay? If a friendship's going to last, you need to let it play out how it plays out. Now, our friendship, me and Chris were very different to Max, so we drifted apart. And we didn't speak for 3 years. We occasionally spoke, but we weren't close. And then we've come back together, and we've all changed. Max has changed, I've changed, Chris has changed. And now we're able to build a friendship again, and it's like nothing ever happened. We're just as close, and I think that's important for any friendship, because it's the whole thing. If it's meant to be, it will be. And me and Chris always had hopes of, like, Max being back in our lives at some point, and it was just a matter. It was just a matter of waiting, and eventually it did happen, which is good. Anyway, so the EP is a concept based around that specific thing, just about loss and reconnection, alright? So that's going to, I don't know when that's going to be out. Me and Chris are the only ones that play a musical instrument, so we are creating demos at the moment that we're sending to one another, and Max, and then Max is giving some, putting some, like, melodies over it, creating, like, melodic tones that we can add into it, which is pretty good. So Chris has recorded one demo already and sent it over. I am, like, 85% done with a demo that I've been recording at the moment. Literally, when I loaded up Reaper to record this podcast, that loaded up because it was the last thing that I was working on, so I gave it a quick listen. So I'm recording that demo. I've got like 2 or 3 riffs that I need to record and send over to them, make a few edits to these demos. And then once we've got 6, well, we're not, if we get like 10 demos, we're just going to narrow it down to 5 tracks or 5 of the demos that we feel like will encapsulate this EP perfectly. And the tone of the EP that we want to go for. Because originally, in our first band, the EP that we did in our first band in Undertides was called Out of Hand. And that was a pop-punk band. We were all into pop-punk, other than Max. And Max was our vocalist, and he didn't really have a feel for pop-punk, which is why I think the band fucked up, because we just didn't play the genre of music that was suited to us. It was just, what was good at the time. So the tone this time that we're going for is anything other than pop punk, pretty much, which is good for me as a learning curve because I'm not musically diverse in the slightest. The 90% of what I listen to on Spotify is pop punk. It's only recently that I've been getting into like more, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of rock, I'm a fan of any music genre I'm a fan of, but I just always gravitate towards pop punk. There's just something about power chords, palm muting, fucking loud verses and choruses and singing about your ex-girlfriends that I just absolutely love. But I think this EP is going to help me kind of get out of that shell and put me into different music genres that I may not have played before. And it can only increase my knowledge of music and my ability to play the instruments in different ways than I am at the moment, which is what I'm excited about. So the demo that I've recorded at the moment, usually every demo that I've ever done, so I've released about 3 or 4 songs myself, with obviously Max and Chris singing over them because I can't sing, and they were literally recorded. Everything was recorded by me, everything was mixed by me, everything was mastered by me and put out by me. And the way that I'd always do them is it would have a predominantly strong guitar throughout the whole entire song. So I can just think about it now. My song Goodbye, my song Wade Away, and my song 2012 all started with me playing a guitar, and it was a guitar all the way through. This demo that I recorded this year for this new band that we're starting, for this new project, started with bass. It was predominantly bass. There's a cool little bass groove that I've put in the verses and over the chorus, which is already different to what I would do. Expanding my knowledge from there. But yeah, that's pretty much another interest of mine. I mean, I play the instruments that I play are electric and acoustic guitar and bass guitar. I can vaguely play piano. I used to be good, but I haven't played it in years, so I definitely need to. I've got a keyboard underneath my bed, but it's just, I want to say I haven't got the time to play it. I don't work, and I've been being paid not to work since March, and I just still haven't bothered to try. Maybe that's down to me being lazy. Maybe it's down to my mentality, which is another thing that I want to talk about in a later podcast, just about how mentality... It's something that I want to talk about in the Corona podcast that I'm going to do, which is about mentality throughout this whole lockdown period, and how mine's just been really shit. But yeah, so they're the 4 instruments that I play, and I'm pretty sure, I've not tried, but I'm like 90% sure that if I bought a ukulele within about a week, not even that, I could easily play the ukulele. The chords aren't hard, learning songs would be easy. But yeah, so music and fitness are my biggest passions. I like drinking, but I wouldn't necessarily call that a passion. Jesus Christ, I'm trying not to burp. But yeah, that's a little about me, in all fairness. I want to get into the fitness industry, recording music this year that I'll definitely let you guys know when it comes out. And I'm a big person on family and friends as well. I mean, me and my 2 sisters and one of my brothers, I think we've gotten closer within the last few years since I've left home, essentially. So they don't live at home. Like, one of my sisters is younger than me, one of my sisters is older than me, and all my brothers are older than me. So everyone apart from my youngest sister has moved out, so I haven't really seen them. Me and my sisters are quite close. Me and one of my brothers are quite close, and that's a good thing, and I'm enjoying that. And then this year, I've just been really trying to nail in building relationships with my friends and keeping in touch, because I have a really, really fucking bad habit of not replying to messages. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but someone will send me a message and I'll look at it and then I'll forget to reply, and I'll be like, oh, I'll reply to that in a bit, and then I just won't, and I'll be like, fuck. So one thing that I'm going to try and do, and I have been trying to do this year, is just like show my appreciation towards friends, open up a little bit more within myself, because I'm quite a closed off person, and just show affection to more people, essentially, and just that. But that's just a little about me, and that's where I kind of want to end episode 1 of this podcast. the things that I wanted to go over is just what the podcast is going to be about, what to expect, which we've ticked from the box. A little about me, which I've ticked from the box, and then my interests and passions, which I have ticked from the box. So that's going to be an end to episode 1 of the Shit Talk podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit about me. And I do hope you tune in next week for the next episode, which I can tell you is going to be really fucking good. So just tune in, watch like the first 20 minutes. If you're not a fan, fuck off and watch something else that you do enjoy. Don't waste your time on me. But if you do enjoy it, let me know. You can follow me on Instagram at Mooney Fitness. YouTube, just type in the exact same thing, and I have a Facebook page which is CM Fitness. So be sure to go like, subscribe to all of them. Let me know what you think of the podcast. If you're listening to this on Spotify, give it I don't know what you do on Spotify. Do you follow? Do you favorite? Download the podcast if you can. If you're watching this on SoundCloud, highly advise you to go over to Spotify, just because it's better, and listen to it on there. And have a good week, guys. I'll speak to you in the next one. And peace. 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 Peace.